Hello, 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 and welcome back to I May Be Young But. I'm your host, Adisyn Flanner, and on this podcast, a teenage girl talks about important issues from her perspective. Usually, I do a little bit more intro and tell you about my day and all that stuff, but that's boring. Let's just get to the good stuff. Anyway, today's episode is, drumroll please, the American school system, or everything wrong with it, at least. Don't get me wrong, I love that I can get a public education for free, but sometimes America's school system can be a little bit just annoying. Gets in your face, so many things wrong with it, so many things that could be better compared to our foreign counterparts. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I think I have a list of 7 bad things about the American school system that I wish they would change or fix. For context for this episode, I am going to be leaving school shootings out of this. I have a whole nother episode on that, and we all know that that's something wrong with the American school system. But today we're going to be focusing on different things. But if you want to check out that episode, it's linked in my bio. Put a little picture of the thumbnail there so that you know what it looks like. So you can just click on it and watch it over and over and over again. Anyway, let's get to reason number 1. Reason number 1 is that teachers are very underpaid. If you didn't know, in America, the starting salary for a teacher who has 1 to 2 years of experience is around $32,000. For comparison, most college students make that much. It's not a lot. That's what they live off of to like pay for their food and clothes, assuming that they've already paid for their tuition, and that's to pay for things like food, clothes, car. It's not that much money. You can obviously get by off it if it's just you, but it's still not that much, which is why the broke college student is a very well-known trope. So the fact that teachers who are out of college and have a full-time career are making the same amount that they did when they were in college and not even getting more than like a 5 grand step up is concerning. You're probably thinking, like, oh, well, once I get more experience, they'll get more money. You would be wrong. Actually, with about 10 years of experience, like the median salary for teachers in America would be like 45K, which is still not enough. And because teachers are underpaid, they don't want to come into work. And obviously, if I'm not getting paid for a job, which you're supposed to get compensated for your time, if I'm not getting paid for my job, why would I want to come in? I mean, obviously, they still have to come in so they don't get fired, but why would I want to come in and do my job well? Why would I want to be enjoyable and happy about it? Which creates, I guess you could say, like bitter teachers, and in turns it creates bitter students because the students feel they're like, oh, my teacher's heart's not in it. Like, she doesn't even want to be here, so why should I want to be here? And it's not even the teacher's fault. It's the fact that she's not getting paid well enough, so she's not too enthusiastic coming in to deal with rousy kids, tweens, and teenagers if she's not going to get paid for it. So then she's not as excited about her lessons plan. It's just like, read the slideshow, just do it. I found personally that I learn better when I have someone talking directly to me because I feel like when teachers can put lessons in realistic perspectives, it's easier. But when their heart's not in it, you can tell. And more not when their heart's not in it, when the money's not in it for their heart to be in it. You'll see a lot of videos of teachers who talk about how much better their lives were after they left the teaching profession and how much it's like healed them mentally, physically, and it shouldn't have to be that way. You should be able to be a teacher, enjoy your job, and get paid a living wage. Let's say the teacher grows up, goes through college, finally gets a teaching job. They're getting paid $30,000 a year. God forbid that they would want to live in a house and not an apartment. Where's the money coming from for the house? Sure, you can get a loan, but then that's just more debt that they don't have the money to pay off. And God forbid they want a family and kids. Where's the money coming from the kids? Because the only benefits they're getting is free education, which they were already promised. That's another thing. They don't really get any benefits besides things like insurance. I mean, maybe if teachers teach at a private school, they could get like discounted tuition or free tuition for their kids. But if they're teaching a public school, their kids could have came there for free anyway. And there's a lot of schools with rules that parents cannot teach their kids. So you can't even get to spend more child time with your child in the classroom. So there's really no benefits teaching other than getting to work with kids if that's what you enjoy. Also, at different levels, you get more money. So, like elementary school teachers are probably going to get paid a little bit less than middle school teachers, and college professors get so much more, which I find a little like weird and confusing because college professors are known for putting in the least amount of effort with their students because they have so many. They don't have time to actually build relationships with their students. I've heard of a lot of, I used to say, cool college teachers who just like cancel class if they have a minor inconvenience, don't want to grade your papers or anything like that. But college professors put in less minimum, like the bare minimum, because they have so many students. So it's kind of impossible to like put your all into giving like super in depth assignments when you're not physically going to have time to grade all of those. Which I find it funny that they're technically doing the least amount, but they're getting paid the most. College professors can get upwards of $100,000 depending on how good they are. And a lot of them are not even in it to teach, they're in it to have funding for things like research. A lot of college professors have like clinical trials and things that they want to research while they're at the college, and the college gives them the resources to do that. So they're getting paid a whole bunch of money, and they're getting like free resources to use to their heart's content. And then they're not even like really interacting with students. Students have to physically like reach out to actually build a relationship with the professor and make them know their name, while elementary school teachers are actively working with developing children every single day. This is their developing years. They're impressionable at this age. Anything major that affects them now is going to affect them for the rest of their life. So the fact that these teachers are working with them every day through tantrums, meltdowns, building their character, and instilling good values in them for 7 hours a day, they should be getting much more compensation. And not even for 7 hours a day. Teachers have to come in early. Teachers have to stay late to do things. Teachers have meetings. They have to work with coworkers that cannot always be easy to work with. So the fact that they're not fairly compensated is beyond me. Like, I don't get it. Why would you do that to America's most important like occupation? They're teaching the next generations that's going to lead this country one day, and they're not getting paid for it. Not to mention transportation and how much time that they're spending getting to their job. Most of my teachers that I have don't live in my city. They live somewhere else surrounding it that's like less expensive to live in because they're not getting paid. So they're commuting like an hour to work, have to get there super early, stay late, and go home. Also, we expect a lot out of our teachers. Like, we expect them to be on the ball, grading everything on time, lesson plans ready, perfect, and in the morning, awake, lively. When like it's 7 in the morning, you know how many classes I've slept in? Like, not on purpose. I don't just like blatantly nap unless I know that I can nap and the teacher's not going to get mad at me for it. But I do doze off from time to time if we're watching a video or something. I'm not awake. You don't have to be awake either. It's not that we expect them to come in with this jolly attitude and they're not getting paid. Like, the only thing that's gonna put a big smile on my face that early in the morning is a stack of cash. Okay? But we can't expect them to come in all lively and upbeat when they're going through so many things at the same time, and then also expect them to put in that much effort into other people's kids when most of them have kids of their own. Like, makes you wonder, if you go into a job like that to work every day, like, why am I hanging out with other people's kids? I have my own kids. Like, what am I doing? Yeah, I would have been gone. I would have quit a long time ago if I was a teacher. So, applause to you, teachers everywhere, especially pre K teachers, because y'all might not have to instill that much content into them, but dealing with everything that is children under the age of 4, respect. On to reason number 2 of everything wrong with the American school system. We have the lack of uniformity. And by lack of uniformity, I mean the lack of sameness. Sameness? Is that even a word? If there's a better word for it, please let me know. But the lack of sameness across all 50 states. Most states are in charge of their own education. And by education, I mean the country gives them specific standards that they need to teach to kids and that kids need to know by the time they graduate. But the pacing, the projects, the assignments that go along with those subjects are pretty much up to the state. The country doesn't really require you to have them do a certain math homework with a certain multiplication questions. As long as they know multiplication and are able to pass state testing, which is also up to the state, by the time that they graduate, there's no problem. So would America really know if we're raising dumb kids? I don't know. For example, many states are in charge of the literature that their students are allowed to read. But because of this, and because it's by state instead of by the country, many states are banning books that are like valid literature that many people should read because they deliver an important message. And I understand if they deem the themes in a book too mature for certain age levels, but these books are also being banned at colleges. Full grown adults aren't allowed to read these books in class because people believe it's racially motivated, too politically charged, delivers a bad message, when a lot of these books don't. And if you're thinking, well, what kind of books are they banning? Here are some examples: Fahrenheit 451, 1984 by George Orwell, The Grapes of Wrath, The Color Purple, The Hate You Give, To Kill a Mockingbird. I could go on for days. Specifically for me, The Hate You Give, as I mentioned earlier, was banned in my classroom, or not banned, but even it's not banned in my state, but my school said I couldn't read it. It was I was in English class and they were giving us an assignment and I got to pick which book I was going to read for our project, and The Hate You Give was on the sheet. And I was like, I've heard that's a movie, but I've never watched the movie, but I've seen clips of it, heard it was really good. So I was like, oh, okay, the book should probably be good too. I'm going to read this one. And she goes, just for context, you actually can't read The Hate You Give. I printed this before they gave me the message. We can't read The Hate You Give because the school says we can't. It's kind of stupid, but it's whatever. I can't read The Hate You Give. Now I have to go home and do it. Which the reality is, people can go home and read these books if they so choose, but I feel like most kids aren't going to volunteer to just like read a random classic book. They need some kind of incentive to do so, and schoolwork was that incentive. And while I understand that at first they might be being forced to read these books, at the end of I've had to read many books for class that I actually ended up really enjoying. For example, And Then There Were None, I read in the 7th grade and I really loved that book. And I would have never read it if it wasn't for class. And while it didn't deliver some important message that changed me forever, I really enjoyed the plot of the book. I was right from the beginning about who was the murderer, and it was really fun to read as a class. So the fact that different states can ban different books, then you have kids in California reading different books than the ones in Florida, especially Florida. You do you wrong. But because of that lack of uniformity, kids could be at different levels academically, and they're not getting these important messages that these books deliver. And just because like you may think it's politically charged, like, it's kids. We couldn't vote if we wanted to. There's not much we can do about it. And these books were written like decades ago. So a lot of the information in them, like overall message still applies today, but a lot of the information in them is gone, fixed, or just non-existent anymore. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that when they ban these valuable books. So now I gotta read The Hate You Give, I guess, on my own, in my own free time. And you and me both know that I am probably not ever going to get past page 10, but not because it's boring, because I'll probably forget I had the book to begin with. Other things by lack of uniformity, we have testing. So each test, not each test, each state is required to do state testing over all their students to like measure their academic readiness for going on to the next grade. It gives the country information about how different students in different states are progressing. And so that then they give the data back to the states, tell them what to fix, what to improve. A lot of times, if you do bad enough on the state test, they can fire teachers over it. If your class got the worst grade, they can fire your teacher over it. And it's basically, mine is like, it was previously 4 hours, but now that I'm in high school, you can take all day if you wanted to. Yeah, it was previously 4 hours, but now you could take all day if you wanted to, which I don't get the point, because if it takes you 7 hours to solve a problem, are you sure you should be going on to the next grade? I'm just saying. So the required testing happens every year. The data gets sent in, and you get to see how stupid your state is. My state, it was some pretty low scores this last year. I mean, I did great, mastery, but it was some pretty low scores overall. Some states, they have like different names for it. Like Louisiana, their state testing name is LEAP. They have like these like crazy names for it that they do. And because it's not like the same questions, the same standards, the same testing format, kids are getting tested over different things. So obviously their results are probably going to be different. Then we have people capitalizing on state testing across the different states. So you've probably heard of College Board. College Board is where you will go for all of your AP testing once you're in high school and you get to take AP courses. They make all the class like tests and AP tests and get them sent out. But the thing is, your school has to pay for those, and they're really expensive, which is why you have to pay. I paid $97 to take AP Human Geography. They sent me a paper test. I took my test. I sent it in. I get a score, and then I have to pay again to get it sent to my colleges. But obviously, not every school offers the same AP courses. Some schools have like 4 or 5. Other schools have, I'm not even sure how many there are total. Maybe like, I feel like there's like 30 to 35 AP courses that you could take if you took every single one. And some like private schools, public schools offer all of those because they're very large schools and they have the student population to fill up those classes, while others in smaller towns can only offer like 4 or 5 because there wouldn't be anybody in all of those classes if they did all of them. Specifically, not every state has to take that AP exam. Like they can offer the course, but then they can't take the test. For instance, recently in Florida, they decided that they didn't want the AP African American Studies to test to come to the school because they screened like practice tests and things like that. They deemed it politically charged and just had a lot of, they said it had a lot of content in it that they just didn't want their students reading, which in my mind, I was like, this is a little late in the year to be doing this because this course is already in motion. So I'm thinking these students signed up to take an AP course so they can get AP credit. And obviously, they can still get the higher GPA if that's what they were going for. But I'm pretty sure if they didn't decide to take the course, College Board refunded them. But you don't get that AP college credit, which is what most people do it for. And so the fact that they, like, I guess, took the AP label off of it just makes it weird, which all other 49 states were completely fine with having AP African American Studies. But because Florida isn't, those kids aren't going to get that college credit. And God forbid they want to go to school out of state and they have to take that course again because they didn't get to take the test. On to reason number 3 of everything that is wrong with this school system we have here in America is that, can you guess it? We're behind everybody else. I recently saw this YouTube video of an English student coming to America to like go to an American school and just see what it was like for, I think, just a day. There are other people who do it for like a week, a month, or who are actual exchange students and stay for the whole year. But he came into math class and they started doing the stuff, and he and everybody else is like, the rest of the class who actually go to the school is like learning this content now. Like this is the first time they've been introduced to it. And he's sitting here like, we already did this. This is easy. What are you guys doing? And that just proves to me that we're behind everybody else. Here in America, we have different levels of education. Or specifically at my school, you can do an on-level course, which is like your core classes like English, science, social studies. You can do on-level, which is just basic, average learning. They tend to have less frequent tests. They're less long, all multiple choice, and they just learn at a slower pace or the average pace. Then you have advanced courses. They teach a little bit faster. They have more frequent tests, and their tests tend to be harder. And then you have AP courses, which is college credit. So that's the hardest level you can do. What I find happens overseas is that they tend to teach everybody the same thing at a more advanced level. So instead of having like on level and then advanced and then AP, they teach everybody at like the advanced level. Not sure how like college credit works overseas, specifically in Europe. They teach everybody at the advanced level, and their kids end up being not even super smart. They just do it at a faster pace for everybody instead of having all the levels, which I understand that not all people learn at the same pace, but having the different levels just makes it so that you end up having kids on different levels overall, kids who didn't understand the content as well because they weren't tested on it as much, and kids who were tested on it a whole bunch, and now it just kind of seems redundant. And I think special accommodations can be made for kids who like need more actual learning time, but overall having different levels like throughout your entire life, just overall brings our average down as being able to learn the content and puts us behind everybody else. Reason number 4 of what is wrong with this American school system is I think we focus a little bit too much on American history. Don't get me wrong, it is important that we know our own history. If I ever get caught in a TikTok and they ask me about American history and it's a simple question and I get it wrong, I'm going to be embarrassed for the rest of my life. That is not going to be me. We do need to know American history, but I feel like we study it almost too much to the point where I took US history in the 8th grade. I am now in 9th grade. When I get to junior year, I will take if I will t- I'm taking AP US history, but everybody else is just taking regular US history. I will have studied US history twice before I graduate. Now, my school does offer an AP European history course. I may not get to take it because my schedule is filled with everything else that I need to do and want to do, and I might just not have room for AP European history, which history is one of my favorite subjects. And I'll have studied American history twice before I even get to think about foreign history. Even when we learn about things like world wars, we still only get the American perspective. And I think it limits the students' worldly knowledge. And that's why kids overseas know way more geography than us and where stuff is, because we don't even try to get outside of our own heads. As a country, we are pretty selfish. We tend to only think about ourselves. And I think it's time that we just branch out, learn about other countries, what they have to offer, because there's a lot outside of the US that we just don't experience because we don't even get to learn about it. There are specific course offerings if you want to learn about that, but I feel like it should be required that we do at least learn a little bit about the rest of the world. We are a part of the world. But my state, we have to take history just for our state. I'm not going to mention it because I don't want anybody to find me. But we do have to take history for our state. And then US history, and then US history again. And then next year I will be taking AP World History, which this year, the social studies course, I took human geography, everybody else took world geography, and then we do world history the next year, which that is like the one thing where we learn about other countries and their history, but it's so late in the game that we're cramming everything in. If you don't know, AP World is one of the hardest AP exams you'll ever take, simply because of the content load and the amount of things you have to do on the AP exam. You have a multiple choice, you have a short answer question, document-based question, long essay question. It is a very long test. You have to know the content. You can't guess, because after the multiple choice, if you don't have all the evidence and stuff, you get so many points off. It's not even funny. And we cram history. Me personally, I'm in a course where we do world history over 2 years. We start from ancient history and then go all the way up to like 2010. That is a lot to cover. And because of my special course that I'm in, where we covered over 2 years, it's a little bit easier for me. But the kids who were taking it only in 1 year next year, they're going to cram the history of the world into 1 year. And I don't have time to learn it, let alone retain it to know anything about countries outside of their own. Reason number 5. 5 golden rings. That was weird. Sorry. Reason number 5. Schools here don't teach us any basic life skills. And to explain this, I'm just going to start listing things I don't know how to do. I don't know how to write a resume. I needed to write a resume for a club officer application. I didn't know what I was doing. I looked up examples, asked my mom for help, and had her check my grammar. I don't know how to change a tire. My dad did teach me. I forgot. I don't know how to pay taxes. I don't know how taxes work. I just know that the government takes a good majority of my money once a year. What is a write-off? Deduction? Deductible? How come if I go to Goodwill and donate clothes, I get some of my money back? Explain. Please. I don't know how to pay bills at all. I don't know what bills I have to pay. I don't know how to get a mortgage. I don't know how to maintain good credit score. These are all questions I could ask my mom. But why should you have to explain it to me when I could go to school and have somebody teach me how to do it and give me testing over it so I know what I'm doing? Obviously, I don't know how to drive. There's driving courses at some schools, not at mine. You have to pay for it. There's a lot of signs, man. I think driver's ed should be required across the country, because I know some schools have it as a course. Mine doesn't. You can't do driver's ed at school. You have to do it outside of school. which just makes it harder because I'm not motivated to learn what these little yellow diamonds mean. That's all the reasons I can think of right now, but I could probably think of 10 more at like any point in the day. So they don't teach us any basic life skills. They teach us mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell and how to prove that something is a triangle. I'm tired of triangles. I don't care about them. They're the meanest shape out there. Like if I touched one, it would prick my finger. I'm not Aurora. I'm not Sleeping Beauty. I don't want to touch a triangle. It's just mean, like a geometric cactus. And they teach us these basic things that aren't even going to matter later in life unless that's the profession you want to go to or the profession that you want to go into. I mean, and so then I get out in the world and sure, I can solve a math problem, but I can't live. Overseas, I know that there's like a lot of specific schools that you can go to based on what you go into, more options for independent learning that reflects what you want to do with your life. Instead of filling your head with useless information that you're not going to use later on, like biology, if you're into science, cool, pop off, go ahead. But I don't care about synthesis, and I probably never will. It'll probably never come up with a conversation unless I'm competing in a trivia tournament, which in that case, woohoo, I would win. I did good on that test. But there's more important things that we could learn or be learning to do with our time, specifically for each individual student that could fill up that useless information time. No shade to my biology teacher. Reason number 6. The American school system puts too much emphasis on going into the workforce. And by that, I mean our entire lives, we're prepared to get good grades in school so we can get into a good college and get a well paying job until we retire in our 60s with barely anything in our retirement accounts and still a bunch of student loan debt so we can die peacefully in our less than middle class homes because we didn't save in our 401k correctly. And what I mean by this is that they put too much emphasis on going into the workforce to work for somebody else. They put a lot of emphasis on us after we leave high school. Our only pathway is to get a job working for somebody else, either making minimum wage or a stable salary. And I think we need to focus more on enabling kids to go out, pave their own way, start their own business, be more than the norm, be more than the average, make more than the norm. Me personally, I want to go into marketing or start my own business. So maybe a marketing firm is in my future, even though that kind of sounds a little bit boring. But I just know that I want to be rich. I have no intention of working up until retirement. And with any luck, that will not happen. But I think we focus too much on sending kids to school and then into a job to work for the man. That was really weird. We put too much emphasis on that when we should be encouraging innovation and creativity. I'm not saying encourage people to go be starving artists on the street because you need to do that, but follow their passions and see if they can monetize it instead of just having to slave away working for 30 years. Is that it? 30 years? 30 or 40 years. One of those two. Obviously, we do need workers in the workforce, so not everybody can start their own business. But I think we have too many people working in the workforce when we need solutions to everyday problems. What those everyday problems are, I'm not sure, but we need solutions to those problems. And that can only happen through innovation. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. The seventh and final reason of things wrong with the American school system is that there's too much emphasis on college. I just talked about emphasis on going straight into the workforce and working for somebody else, but I think we also put too much emphasis on going to college. As we've learned, especially throughout this last decade, college isn't for everyone. I mean, there are many, many graduates of UT University because of databases like YouTube and social media. You can learn a lot of skills and you don't even have to go to college to learn those skills. Many people don't feel the need to go to college and learn just as much as everybody else with no problems.